If you don't know an answer, tell your customer, I don't have an answer, but I'm going to get you an answer and get back to them. They appreciate that. That communication goes a long way. It really does. Communication, number one, and learning your product that you are selling, I think are the two most important things.
Hello, and welcome to the Elevator Careers Podcast, sponsored by the Allred Group. I am your host, Matt Allred. In this podcast, we talk to the people whose lives and careers are dedicated to the vertical transportation industry to inform and share lessons learned, building upon the foundation of those who have gone before to inspire the next generation of elevator careers. Welcome to today's episode of the Elevator Careers Podcast. Our guest today is Kevin Cunningham, an industry veteran with over 40 years of experience in elevator construction, modernization, and consulting. Kevin's journey started with sheer determination, calling every day until he got his first job in the elevator trade. In this episode, Kevin shares how his hands-on experience in the field shaped his career and ultimately led him to co-found HydraSafe Brake, a company dedicated to improving elevator safety with cutting-edge braking systems. We'll explore Kevin's insights on career growth, planning ahead, and the critical role of safety in the elevator industry. So buckle up and join us as we take a deep dive into the world of elevators and safety innovation with Kevin Cunningham. This is part one. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Matt. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited to be able to talk. I've enjoyed all of our conversations, and it's a lot of fun, and I'm excited to talk with you. So, love to find out, how did you get started in the elevator industry from the get-go?
Boy, that's a great story. The elevator industry is years ago when I got in 1985. It's kind of funny. You really needed to know someone to get into the elevator industry.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate enough where one of my neighbors, his dad and him were in the elevator trade, and I asked him, I said, "Hey, how do I get in? How do I get into this?" And they're like, "Well, you know what? We don't really know anybody to get in, but years ago we did." But anyway, they told me Fujitech had a lot of work in Chicago.
Interesting.
And I says, "Well, where's the office?" So I was driving a truck at the time for a window manufacturer at a very young age. I think I was 20, 21 at the time.
Well, let me ask you, what was it that intrigued you? Why would you even think to ask that question, I guess?
You know, again, I mean, it was the elevator business, and what they did kind of intrigued me to begin with. I was a mechanical, type of guy. I like to work on cars, stuff like that. So really my way in was to go to Fujitech's office literally every day, or I called them.
Wow.
For 3 months straight.
We're not going to get rid of this guy unless we...
And it's funny, finally at the time, I got a call from the office, and I says, the guy that got me in, he says, "Kevin, I am really sick of hearing from you. So if you want a job in the elevator business, you start tomorrow. Be at the Union Hall and you start tomorrow with me.
If you don't show up, that's it, right? We're done." Yeah.
That's it. So I was kind of excited, but me driving a truck at the time was great because I was able to pop in all the time, every day. And he just literally, after a month, he's like, "Yeah, I'm not here. Tell him I'm not here." But so that's a pretty interesting story. So,
and I'm intrigued in several ways, right? A, that you knew to even ask the question, and B, that you had the tenacity to just keep knocking on the same door.
Oh yeah.
That's impressive.
The squeaky wheel, right?
Yeah. And I'm just going to keep squeaking until you give me the right answer.
Yeah.
Love that. So you started as a mechanic then? Is that how?
No, started as a helper in the trade. At that time, there was really no set apprenticeship program at the time.
Okay. Uh-huh.
As soon as you got through all your schooling, you were able to actually take your mechanics exam if you thought you were ready to take it. Nowadays, it's a 5-year apprenticeship program. To go from that helper status to a mechanic status.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. How long were you in the field then?
I was in the field. Well, with the helper end of it, I got an 85, took my mechanics exam in 90. I was in the field for a little over 20 years.
Wow. Okay.
Before I kind of transferred out of that and office end of it and things of that nature, and then got into the consulting end of it.
Yeah. 20 years is a long time. What was your favorite thing about being in the field?
You know what I liked the most, and I started out in construction, went into modernizations, did some service work, did some maintenance, helping
Hmm.
mechanics and things. What I found to be the most intriguing part of it was the modernization end of it. I really did like the modernization end of it. That intrigued me because you're tearing out. You have to divorce the old elevators
Right.
from maybe a bank of 6 or 8 and whatnot, and divorce each one. And then you put a new elevator in, the new
Right.
computerized circuitry. That's something new that you needed to, again, coordinate, apply to the system where everything works together. I found it intriguing to try to do that.
Is that so? Yeah, myself having never done a mod, I talk about them with some people, but is the computer integration the most difficult part of actually getting it done, or I mean, I've heard it can be a bear, or that certain systems won't even talk to each other, even from the same
True.
manufacturer sometimes.
True. Some of that was challenging. The most challenging parts were years ago when they installed elevators. All the wiring, it was black. Is all black. So
All
when
of
you
it.
have a bundle of wiring that big going to another controller, you have to divorce that. Well, where does the wire go? Well, there's no tags, or today's day and age,
Uh-huh.
every wire is numbered in different colors. And so you can take 1, 2, 3, or 4 and, go back to that circuit, disconnect it and whatnot. That wasn't like it. So you have to trace kind of each individual wire back.
Is it like a tone generator or something? You have to put some kind of. I mean, I spent a little bit of time in IT 20 plus years ago, and yeah, trying to find, would put a little tone on one wire, and it's like, okay, but it seems to be bleeding on all these other wires. Or
And it was something similar to that, right? You're tracing those wires back, but are they tied back to certain relays that are
yeah,
going to join to other controllers or whatnot. Again, you go back to a central dispatching system back then.
mm-hmm.
So you're divorcing it from that and making sure that the other elevators are running. That's the challenge.
Yeah,
It's as you're disconnecting, it's not a matter of cutting all the wires and saying, okay, pull the controller out. It doesn't work that way.
right.
So you gingerly go one at a time and make sure your elevators are still running in the bank.
Yeah.
That's the most intriguing part or challenging part, if you will.
Well, and then you bring back the new one on, and like I say, if the new system, the old system don't speak the same language, then you may be playing a whole different game, bringing on the new ones.
Yeah, and there's different type of crossovers and different type of boards years ago that they have, and they still have them today, where you're plugging your old system into the new system, and that's the other challenge, right? Do they talk to one another? Do they dispatch the elevators the way they're supposed to?
Yeah.
So, a lot of challenges, but I found it fun. I found it fun. I found it intriguing. That end of it, I really, really liked.
Yeah, kind of fell in love with mod, and 20 years later, you're like, oh, let's try something different. Is what it sounds like.
Yeah, it was. Then the office challenges came into effect. Later on in my career, I once got out of the elevator trade for a little bit, had my own business outside the elevator trade, and then, like I say, went back into the office after that as a superintendent. And again, all good. Every aspect of the business I've been in, and now I'm in the manufacturing end of it, which is a lot different than when I first started.
Yeah. What is one early lesson that you feel like really shaped your career?
It was probably planning ahead. I think it was the most challenging part as I grew up in the business and became a mechanic, and then I became, a foreman, and if you will, I use the term adjuster loosely because I adjusted third-party equipment for the company Schindler that I used to work for. And I say that loosely because, again, I knew that equipment rather well. But it was no one else was doing it at that time for our company, right? So not a lot of guys were installing third-party equipment. You're installing what Schindler manufactures, or for Otis, you're installing Otis's equipment. So it was different. It was different learning another system, and so found that exciting as well.
Were there any experiences where you learned to plan it ahead by not planning ahead? I mean, were there any of those things that kind of like, oh,
The
wow.
planning ahead was a lesson that, again, my old, I used to help an adjuster, and he told me, he says, you're not going to be able to think step 10 while you're doing step 1. And I think that's what I tried to do early on. I tried to think way ahead of where I needed to be. And I think that comes with experience. I think it comes with modernizations, one elevator after another. But eventually I got there, and I was able to say, as an example, hey, I know in 2 weeks we're going to be dropping traveling cables. I need to get those ordered out for the teams on the job.
Okay.
Or we're going to be installing car stations, or we're going to be. So I needed to think ahead. So I think that planning aspect is the most important part of trying to bring a job in on time. You start a job, you might have 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 6 weeks, 14 weeks, depending on the rise of the building, and you have to coordinate your time. So that was the most challenging part, and the most that I've learned is that planning end of it.
Yeah. Is that a formal process where you actually calendar it out, or is this more just kind of relying on your intuition that, oh yeah, hey, in 2 weeks I need to do, let's order this, or what's kind of your practice?
More of just performing multiple modernizations. So knowing what those next steps were, the first aspect is, you're gonna maybe disconnect all the wiring, as I told you. You want to run off the new system as quick as possible. This way, you run a new controller. All the wiring's dead. Now you can take out all the wiring. You could put new wiring in place, things of that nature. So it's more of a each time you do it, it's more of a like riding a bicycle, right? You know what to do, you know when to turn, you know how to balance.
It becomes real intuitive about just kind of the flow of the process.
Flow of the process, and where do you cut corners? Where do you save money? How do you save money while you're in the course of a mod? What do you need? What can you reuse? So that was a big part of it.
Were there any times early on where you're like, oh, whoops, I should have done that a week ago. Now we're delayed a bit.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of that. Yeah, when I first started out, and again, you kind of think you're jumping ahead of things, but really you're not. So a lot of that, it played a role, and you knew what not to do next time in the next car. So,
yeah. I mean, it's
those
you got to learn it, right? I mean, that's how I learned how to tie my shoes, was landing on my face and realizing, I guess I need to tie my shoes.
Yes. Yeah, those are important lessons as you go on. So you don't know, again, you don't know everything. So, you move forward and you learn as you go.
Yeah. Who are some of your early mentors that really made a difference for you?
Some of the, it's funny, I call them the old timers back then, right? The seasoned guys. Now I'm the old timer,
sure.
But those are the guys that I relied on, and the things I didn't know, I reached back out to them. Hey, what's the approach on this? Or what do you think I should do with this? Or how do you do that? And I got that advice from those guys. So
how long did it take you to kind of build that trust? I mean, I've heard some different stories about how mechanics kind of don't respect their helpers early on. I mean, do you feel like it took a while to kind of prove yourself or have them?
Yeah, it takes a while. It takes a while for the confidence level of the person that you're what we call helping, or you're being an apprentice, helping a mechanic, if you will, assisting a mechanic. Yeah, it takes time. They got to kind of know, well, what can you do? What can't you do? What can I trust you with? Can I trust you with wiring up a door operator, or are you strictly going to be taking garbage out off a job site all the time?
Right.
So that comes along with working with each individual and things of that nature, getting into projects where you need the two people.
Yeah.
Part of our, I believe some of the problems today is a team, as I was part of, only one guy's working. Hey, hand me that pair of strippers, hand me that screwdriver, what we did is, and I did that with that same practice, is I wanted to put my helper to work when I was a mechanic, just like I was put to work. Go do this, because now I can see, okay, how is he doing that? Well, he needs a little more training on that end of it. Now you know what to trust him on. Can I have him wire up a door operator by himself? Things of that nature. Yep. And I think you learn that as you go along.
All right. What kind of learning curve was there once you stepped out of the field and into the office? I mean, was a little bit of a different world in some respects.
A little bit of a different world, different computer programs, things of that nature. The work was the same. You accumulate different teams under you that work for you. Or like I used to say, we all work together. We're all one team. So again, if I fail, you fail, and vice versa. So it's really knowing who you have, and it's really preparing them really for the work that comes ahead. What is that work? What does it look like? What are you installing? Did I order everything correctly? set them up for success or failure. So that's the biggest part of what you're learning in the office, beside the fact of computer, new systems, things of that nature. Right.
Right. Right.
So, the bigger companies were more challenging. I've worked for a bigger company. I've worked for smaller independents. So a lot less meetings in the smaller independent world.
Absolutely. Right. More getting it done. And then you moved on to consulting at some point. And what was the biggest difference there from working from a contractor to moving to a consulting role?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? I mean, moving from what I thought I knew, I'm thinking, well, I'm an elevator guy. I've been in the field, been enough.
Sure.
What is there to know in consulting? I mean, I see a bunch of different consultants out there. I've worked at a bunch of different ones. There's a huge learning curve. There's a lot to learn.
Tell me a little bit about what were some of the bigger curves and bumps to kind of adapt to as a consultant?
When I first started the consulting end of it, writing a report, great example. I knew what to say. I knew what I looked at, but I stared at a blank screen, right? At a Word document.
Sure.
What do I say?
How do I say it? Right? How do
you say it? Yeah.
Articulate it in a way that sounds intelligent.
And what information am I giving the customer? What does that customer really want to know? So a lot of that, I've picked up throughout the years. I've had people that, used to go through and read through reports, used to navigate through them before they even went out. I had admin that used to do that. I had other consultants that went through that to make sure that, the repetition is being followed, according to the reputation that we had. Mm-hmm. And I used to send reports back redlined all the time. I mean, a lot of red lines.
Right. And
that's how I learned. I mean, it's I saved those red lines. So the next report, I went through the red lines. Do I say that? And eventually, over time, all those red lines came out, and I learned how to write a report. But most people today, again, even the consultants today, still have trouble writing reports. Or if you ask consultants, they'll tell you, I hate writing a report.
It's a different skill altogether than a lot of what they're probably used to and maybe enjoy. And I mean, I'm sure there are people out there that love writing reports, but marrying up those different things into one job can be a trick.
It's challenging, but also, when you're sitting with a customer, finding out what are you looking for? What do you want? What are you doing? And also having templates. We built templates as we progressed. We built templates. So we kind of knew, what's that first paragraph going to be? What are we telling them about? Are we telling them about deficiencies first? Are we telling them about their equipment first? Or are we giving them that outline of what they have? So having those templates really helped, moving forward, because you already kind of knew what you were going to say. You're kind of filling in the blanks. So.
Well, and I think it would help a lot, with those who are coming in, maybe they're newer to consulting. It's like, instead of having a blank sheet, oh, hey, Kevin's done 85%. I just have to fill in a few details.
Yes. And it's a lot easier, because then you can get out what you really want to say. What is the idea of, of what I'm trying to get across to the customer? What's the customer looking for? Is it strictly dollar related? Is it future related for his assets? Are we going to build this thing up over the next 5 years? So that all plays a role too. So when you learn all that.
Yep. Well, so now you've moved to the manufacturing side, which is a total different slice of the pie. What are some of the things you've had to learn in this space?
I like the consulting end better. That's what I gotta tell you that. We came up with a product about 10, 11 years ago. My partner came up with the original idea, and we built it in our garage.
Cool.
We built the prototype and went from there. We kind of thought, hey, once we start moving forward, we'll create it, we'll build it, we'll get a patent on it. And once we get a patent, we're done. I'm done. I'm going to sell it. I'm going to sell it to someone else out there. Maybe it's an Otis or a Schindler or Kone or TK Thyssen at the time. Yeah, who knows? Mm-hmm. And once we did all that, it never came through. Everybody said, "Hey, I want to see it. Did you guys got one installed?" So at one point in time, I told my partner, look, we gotta go into manufacturing. And, and that was another, I have another respect more so now for some of the elevator companies when they said, boy, you know what? I can't get this part. Oh, come on, guys. What do you mean you can't get the part? Come on, I'll find it for you. It's really supply chain issues. It's real.
Sure.
It is real.
Sure.
In certain situations, sure, can you find a board here or there? Yeah, you can. But when you're going long term or dealing with manufacturers, foundries, machine shops,
Sure.
grabbing some of your parts and pieces to put together, that's a huge learning curve. That's part of it that, again, you really got to have very tight partnerships. So that's part of really the mainstay of the manufacturing, and because everything is changing, and there's certifications you need, and people come through your shop, and you have to verify that each and every year, and your CSA approvals, Lift Institute approvals, a lot more to it.
Yeah. Well, it's an orchestration on a much grander scale. I mean, it's one thing to orchestrate a mod, but if you're having to orchestrate where are the bolts, where are the nuts, where are the screws, where are the wires, where are all these things coming from, and which of these am I actually going to produce in house? Which of these am I going to actually insource? And are they coming from overseas? And something I haven't.
And that relates, you get back to planning, right? It really does relate now to processes and procedures.
Sure.
And what is that first step when you get that product in? What do you do? And you keep on the process procedure end of it, from first cleaning off one of our calipers to actually putting it and running it through a testing simulator, if you will, logging it all on a computer and boxing it up and shipping it out. So that's the biggest thing. You have to have everybody on the same page as you are manufacturing, and have that, again, that procedure or process put in place. Very
absolutely important. Yeah. So having worked in, kind of, I wouldn't say it's every part of the business, but you've kind of touched every part of the business at this point, and have had a very interesting career, and which I think is awesome. I think it's amazing that people can kind of go from bottom to top and side to side and experience so much of what you had. What, as we, kind of finish up this interview about your career, what advice would you give to somebody who, maybe they're the kid knocking on the door or coming in as a new salesperson? What would you say?
The salespeople I used to get when I was in the office, and you get the new folks coming in, pretty sharp kids, guys and gals, right? That used to come through. And the most important thing I used to tell them was two main things. Return phone calls, very, very important, and learn the product you're selling. So again, push button, as simple as it sounds. Hey, these guys want all new buttons inside their elevator or all new haul stations.
Sure.
Learn your product. Don't just go in the computer system and say, well, I think it's a TX21 or a YZ123, and just put the proposal together and send it and call it a day. Learn that product. So my recommendation was go out and see your technicians. Learn that button. Is it an Adams button? Is it an Innovations? Is it an EPCO? Learn those buttons so and you can talk intelligently now to your customer, because now you're in an arena where you can sell them something that you have that confidence in. And again, I think here for this building, you would need a PB 101 or whatever that might be. I've always recommended that. And some of those folks have followed through with that. The returning the phone call, it might sound kind of crazy, but in today's day and age, everybody's email based. I was still the old school when I was in there, and I would still pick the phone up, or I would drop out and visit my customer, especially toward the end of the year, my larger customers. And because of doing that, they'd always tell me, hey, I got a couple $100,000 to spend by the end of the year. So instead of an email, it's more of a personal, right? You're on a personal level with them. And again, when people do place phone calls to you, they're placing a phone call for a reason. And I always used to tell the sales staff, account managers, if you don't know an answer, tell your customer, I don't have an answer, but I'm going to get you an answer. And get back to them. They appreciate that. That communication goes a long way. It really does. Communication, number one, and learning your product that you are selling, I think, are the two most important things. So.
Perfect. That's beautiful. And honestly, I've heard from a lot of people that exactly the same thing, that, call me back and people won't call me back. Well, they're not going to get my business. It's pretty straightforward in that regard.
It's frustrating because, again, half the battle is if a customer's calling you. Man, I kind of look at that as 80 to 90% of the sale.
Sure.
That's it. All you got to do is return the phone call and ask them, what can I do for you today? And you'd find that you'd make more money that way than any other way.
Yep.
Yep.
Awesome. Kevin, thank you for this interview. It's been a pleasure, privilege, and I appreciate you being with me today.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. So
thank you. Thank you for listening to the Elevator Careers podcast, sponsored by the Allred Group, a leader in elevator industry recruiting. Please visit our YouTube channel at Elevator Careers or check us out online at elevatorcareers.net. Please like and subscribe, and until next time, stay safe.